Hello and welcome back to the Jacob Collins YouTube channel. We're here to cover off the first third of iRacing 2026 Season 3. Gonna be kicking it off with the first week of the season, obviously, where we took on Eldora in the Dirt Legends series, and I picked up a win here over Casey Sprinkle and others. Believe there was an incident at some point that happened during this race that caused a good number of the field to back away at some point. Don't remember exactly who was involved, but I managed to come through that clean. Still trucking, and then managed to break the draft on Mr. Sprinkle and take home the win. So that opened up this season at Eldora with a good points haul. Trying to defend my current championship in that series. And then the next day I ran Legends Road Cup at Navarra Short. This was the first time Navarra Short, to my knowledge, had been used in official series competition. Casey Sprinkle's back on his main account this time. Jarrett was leading an early portion of this race, spun out at some point, and then I managed to break the draft on Sprinkle and Axel Smith as they were battling back and forth rather heavily over the course of this race. So I managed to just click my laps off and pick up another win in the Legends Road Cup. I believe this at the time would have tied it, or just had, I believe it actually would have extended the lead for most victories I have in a single car on iRacing in terms of just the Asphalt Legends car. I'm not counting the Dirt Legends car and saying that. We'll take a peek at that in a little bit as well. So moving on past that, there's just 4 more races to go in the first week. We've got Indy Next, took on Road America that week, finished 5th. I was holding on to the back of Jacob Abel for a couple laps when he was running along in 3rd. And then Alessandro DiTullio, Real World Indy Next driver. Obviously, Abel's a former IndyCar and Indy Next driver himself, but DiTullio was kind of the class of the field here alongside Anders G. I'm not going to try to butcher his last name there, but they were both very strong. I'm assuming they got together in the closing lap as Jacob was able to skirt on by and work his way through. I had a decent battle with Russell Woodley here from Road America and just couldn't make the same move I did the last time I had come here to try to pass on the outside down the front straightaway. Coming to the line, ultimately I ran out of push to pass coming to Canada corner, and then he just blew by me down the front straight with the button on, and that summed up that one fairly easily. So it's a fun race. Road America is always a good time in these open wheel cars when the race goes clean and you can have some fun. I believe David Piazza had spun at some point too, so it was a good bit of fun there. Then we move on to Dirt Legends once again at Eldora. This was the race where I believe Colby Jackson decided he needed to turn left down multiple lanes. Or sorry, yeah, left down multiple lanes and left hooked a car and wrecked the field basically. And so I came home with a 6th place finish because I got taken out of the draft with all that. So unfortunate, but it is what it is. So we move on from that. And then we have the street stocks at Irwindale. This is actually going to be the first pickup of the season. Had a great race with Kevin Burdick. We both kind of signed up last minute, and I figured he was probably going to get the best of me because I figure he's probably more of a short track oriented driver. He put up a great fight. I ultimately got to his inside with just a couple laps to go. As you see, I only led 2 laps here. Those were the final 2, and we basically door banged the whole way around the track. Coming to the line, I managed to pull it out just barely here at Irwindale in the street stock. So that's the first of 3 tracks I've picked up so far this season. We'll get to the rest of those in, I believe, week 2 for the other 2 of those. So the street stock actually was a good bit of fun here. I think Irwindale's a really underrated track. I'm not quite sure how well it would race and things without like solid fender sidewall sort of deals like the street stock here. If you were to run modifieds here, I could see that being a bit of a struggle. I guess it just depends on how well does the bottom line work in some of those other cars. Because here it was basically you had like a lane and a half on the upper side of the track to play with. So it was a good bit of fun. But I definitely would love to come back to Irwindale at some point in maybe something else. Maybe try one of the other layouts. It's unfortunate that that track got bulldozed in recent years. Ran some pickup cup. Don't really need to talk about that. That's not anything too crazy here. Delara Dash, another Dirt Legends race at Eldora. This one I just got shuffled out with contact from Wally Wilson on the final lap. I maybe would have had a shot at a third place spot here, but ultimately came up short there, so settled for fourth. It was kind of just a bit of a messy race. Cars were kind of all over the place. I don't recall exactly who got collected in what incidents, but um, just rough tumble dirt track racing, if you will. And Eldora's kind of atrocious in this car, at least in terms of being able to actually negotiate around things, because it basically turns into who can throw the nastiest slider and let it stick. Because it's basically our equivalent of Talladega with how banked and high speed it is, relatively speaking. So, but yeah. So I believe that's the last of the races from that week. Yes, it is. So then we move on to Production Car Challenge at Naval Base Coronado. The first of these I ran by myself in the Clio, so this is technically a free win here in the Clio. This track's kind of all over the place. Um, I think PCC here was I mean, it works, but I didn't think it raced that great. I did end up running another one for posterity, and this one I got junked like by a Toyota right off the bat because, of course, nobody wants to nobody wants to leave gaps between the car classes, so we were stuck right on top of the Toyotas because the Mazdas pushed us into the Toyotas, and then that turns in the inevitable cluster that it does. I don't understand why people are insistent on doing that. I really hope that the changes for multi-class starts come in, because that would make honestly PCC is a fun series. It's just when you go to tracks like this where it's, cars are starting through a chicane and you're just stacked on top of each other. There was wrecks before we even took the green, basically, with how goofy that was. So this is track 2 of 3 this season. I picked up Coronado. This is me showing that there was indeed another car I had to beat here. I got junked by a Toyota, came down the pit lane, repaired my car, came back out, and managed to win, because I guess Josh must have had his own struggles, but that's that. Then we move on to Legends Road Cup at Scuba 1000 Chicane. This was the last of the Scuba layouts, to my knowledge, that had not been used in officials either. Picked up the win here, lights the flag from the pole. Good bit of fun. The Legends car here is probably one of the best combos in iRacing, and it's a shame that a lot of people might not experience it because they'll just overlook it because it's a Legends car on a road course. But I think it's really nice. It's kind of got that go-kart feel to it that I enjoy a lot of different combos that I've driven over the years, the likes of like USF at Knock Hill and stuff. Obviously, I've come from karting in the real world, so that kind of harkens back to what I enjoy a lot about racing to some extent. So yeah, it's Scuba 1000's another win here. I don't need a win at Scuba in this case, but it was fun to get that one in. Have a good bit of fun. Then we have Dirt Legends at Lanier. I had a great battle with AJ Williamson. Managed to hold it on the outside of him for the bulk of this race. Dylan Delaney was in there fighting for a good while there. Not entirely sure what happened, if he maybe made contact with somebody at some point or what, but it was a good bit of fun here. Picked up another win at Lanier in the Dirt Legends Championship. I've managed to pick up wins every week of the first 4 weeks of the season, rather, in the Dirt Legends series. So putting up a decent bit of a fight for defending my title there. And then we move on to IndyCar Oval Fixed at Michigan. This was an interesting race. Came down to a late race yellow where I believe John Stellard got involved with, I believe, Eric Carlson late in that one. So I ultimately was able to pick up the win and come out with a win at Michigan, my first win at Michigan. So that's track 3 of 3 so far this season. Was fortunate to have a lot of guys that I know in the IndyCar community come out and you know give me a good go here. So it was a good bit of fun. I enjoy Michigan a lot. It's one of my preferred big tracks, especially in the IndyCar races. Really nice. Um, and we picked up the win at Michigan. I believe Andy Kirchenbauer was also involved in an incident at some point here. I forget. He was running the outside lane and got smashed low to high. So his loss will not be in vain there as well. We've got Indy Next Road at. No, that didn't go official. We've got Scuba 1000 chicane again in the Legends Road Cup. I got held up behind Jarrett Corey, I believe. I'm working through this one and ultimately was not able to hunt down Casey Sprinkle to come try to win this one. He had told me apparently he was sandbagging and I wouldn't have stood a chance, but I like to think I would have been able to hang with him if I had been with him on the initial start. That chicane just broke us up so much I didn't want to run Jarrett over trying to get through there. So is what it is, but we had ourselves a good bit of fun um, running Scuba 1000 again, finish second, pick up some decent points, but I'm not expecting anything crazy to come out of that series. Indy Next at Silverstone. I don't know Silverstone that well. My lap times are significantly off where they should have been. Want to say I got collected coming through turn 7 or 8 by Danny O'Gara. Just net code, like full car with a net code between us, and I spun and had to recover. Fortunately, there was some contact with a number of the cars battling for the lead or in the upper positions, and I was able to work my way back up from the back of the field all the way up to second again. So, um, the combo was fine. I don't mind it. Wasn't very popular from what I recall, and I think there's better tracks for us as a result. But picked up a second place here, and that's just ticking off the tracks. I'm running this for participation as I have since the series came out, but hopefully we'll have some better races through the rest of the season. Moving forward beyond that, I did opt to run SRX at Knoxville. This is actually the first time I had ever touched the SRX car. Finished second to Indy. Indy's kind of a bit of a dirt specialist in the SRX car, or I guess maybe kind of a bit in general to some extent. But I qualified fifth. I believe the car that started third was, yeah, Caleb Durgan. He wheel spun and had some problems getting going, so he came down, pulled off uh, into the exit lane going into turn 1. But I had basically made it by him by that point anyway. And yeah, just clicked off laps, was consistent enough to hold on to my positioning here, finished second. It was a good bit of fun. I was, it's definitely a surprise to have a really big strength of field like this in a series I had never raced before. I definitely want to try to give this more goes on dirt at the very least. Maybe try a road course at some point. We'll just have to wait and see. How I'm feeling about it. I know Carl Sampson. I know you're probably watching this, and I know that you've enjoyed this series. I know there's a number of guys in and like Nico, in and around this community that are kind of part of that group. So it was cool to finally get out and run an SRX race. It had been a while since I had tried something properly new on the sim, but it was a good bit of fun to run Knoxville, a track I picked up in the 305 however long ago. Then we've got Dirt Legends at Charlotte. It was just a classic hard battle at the lead. Finished second. Casey Sprinkle, I think, almost tried to clean me out coming into the final corner. I led some laps, started up front, obviously, on the pole, and just couldn't make it around Caleb Hall in a way that I felt made sense. And there was no reason really for me to do anything crazy there. So I just held on and finished second. Um, Another decent race in the Dirt Legends series. I think when the racing goes right, it goes really good, but when it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's that. I could go on and on about this Mid Ohio race I ran that week in Indy Next. I was in position to win after Michael Costello and Bex Cranston. Costello runs USF Pro 2000. The real world Bex, I believe, is in USF Juniors. So they were two real world drivers just absolutely throwing the most obscene moves on each other the whole race. Bex ended up crashing out due to contact with Costello at some point, and then Costello had to serve a drive-through for too many incidents. Eventually, we came down to me and Nate Brody. Nate Brody dove it in deep on me in China Beach, locked it up, and spun me around, which ultimately gave the lead to Griffin Yellen, who I just couldn't make a move on by that point, which is fine. Griffin's a solid car most of the time. I don't know how he accrued all those incident points, but we'll take a second place after what was, quite honestly, the most chaotic race I think I've ever been in, um, and go from there. That, I believe, does it for week 3? No. No, it doesn't. We've got one more. Dirt Legends at Charlotte. This is actually my highest strength of field win of all time. Indy and Colby Jackson had made contact early in this one, so that took them, basically everybody but me and myself and Nathan Thomas, out of contention. And I managed to make a move on the outside at some early stage of this race, because you'll see I led 16 laps here, and there was only one lead change, so it was the last 16. Made a pass on the outside, just held my ground, held the momentum, worked my way around the track to pick up my highest strength of field win of all time. Would have been a little higher had I picked up the one last season here at Charlotte in the Dirt Legends car, but good points haul. Big win for me. Hoping to carry that momentum through the rest of the season, obviously, and see if we can go back to back in Dirt Legends. Gonna probably talk about that more when I get to like end of season stuff as to what I'm doing. Beyond this season, we'll just have to see how the rest of the season goes too. Long way to go, as we've only reached the third way mark, if you will, once this week concludes. So that was that. Then we move on to this week, which saw Legends Road Cup take on Okayama Short. It's kind of a classic Legends Road Cup venue. I had nothing for J.R. Shepard. There was a number of cars. I believe it was Ole C. Oldstole and Dan Decker were just intent wrecking each other and stuff. They were throwing really obscene blocks when they were in the battle for the lead, and then just smashed the crap out of each other at some point multiple times and had their own problems. Not really sure what they were doing, but that is what it is. I had a great battle with Samuel Eason for the second spot and eventually managed to break the toe on him and work my way into a comfortable spot to just click laps off. I didn't have anything to really compete with JR. I think maybe if I had held on to his draft, I would have maybe be able to do something, but having been battling the battling cars and having to dodge the initial incident that saw Ole and Dan fall down the order, ultimately nothing really I could have done about that. But a second place finish, not a bad way to kick that week off. We move on to Lima Land in the Dirt Legends car. Had a great battle with Hunter Wellman the whole way through here. Managed to get to another pass on the outside, just held my ground, and was able to hold on to the lead the last couple laps, and pick up a win at Lima Land for week 4 here. So that's 4 straight weeks of wins here in the Dirt Legends series for me. Decent points haul, nothing crazy. I think by and large, I want to be scoring over 120 points a week. If it's anything like last season, we'll just have to see how the season plays out. Yeah. So then I opted to run Scuba 2000 in USF. This is kind of my seasonal USF appearance. Treston was trying to get a race in, figured I'd sign up and give this one a go. Lights the flag from the pole. Really didn't see a car ahead of me until I hit lap traffic with Rory and Eli, which were fairly easy to pass. They gave me space going into the final hairpin, I believe each one of them on various laps. This combo is a lot of fun. It's got just enough going on where you can stay engaged throughout the lap, and if you get some cars that can stay close to each other, it's really interesting to be able to try to make passes and battle around here because of the kind of narrow groove of a lot of the hairpin corners, and then you've obviously got the long kind of carousel style final corner as well. So, yeah. So that's my seasonal USF appearance. Picked up the win, picked up some iRating. That's now an all-time high for me for Formula iRating. Not that that really means anything at this rate. I'm not pushing for 6K. I have no expectation to make it anywhere near to that in the slightest. Then we move on to more Dirt Legends at Lima Land. 3-way battle between myself, Indy Kirchbauer, Miles Morris. I was just kind of worst of the three of us. I didn't really get into a spot where I felt like I could make a move for the lead at any point in time. Just kind of hung around, logged the laps. Nothing crazy. just another bog standard Dirt Legends race. Nothing really happened. We had to dodge a lot of kind of chaos with the back of the field, but it was a good bit of fun. Everybody kept it majorly clean, at least amongst the instances I saw other cars. Obviously, there was incident points collected by a lot of people, but yeah. So we move on to another Dirt Legends race later on that evening, which is the final race I ran this week. I was running behind Brayson Riddle for a good portion of this race. Ultimately, Colby Jackson decided he needed to reverse his car from the bottom of the track all the way to the high side, and I got spun around and collected that, so I lost my second place spot. I don't think I was going to actually make a legitimate challenge for the lead, but I felt like I could have easily held on to second. I was multiple seconds ahead of Sarah by the time that had happened. Just nowhere for me to go. Colby doesn't seem to have any situational awareness whatsoever. Just decides that he needs to drive his car where he wants to drive his car. And I'll be on record saying that. He door slammed Indy multiple times after that wreck at Charlotte they had. He did this here. I haven't seen a good race out of him. The only good race I could say I've maybe had with him was when we ran Husitz a number of seasons ago, maybe like a year ago now, where he had gotten into the back of me and let me back into the race, and I was able to hold on and win that race. But that's the only good thing I've seen come out of him. Anything else I've seen has been rather rough to watch, and that's nothing against him personally. I don't know. It's been a rough season in that regard. So, with all that being said, let's move on to the kind of rundown of things here. So, it's been 4 weeks. We've run a total of 25 races heading into week 5 here. If we look at our results tab, currently sitting on 286 points in Indy Next. I believe that puts me just outside the top 25. Don't really care, or I'm not all that concerned with that. Picked up some decent finishes in Legends Road Cup, set on 373 in that series. One win that counts towards the points tally. That's coming at Navarra. Nothing too much to say about that. Just clicking off the weeks, and then Dirt Legends. We've picked up 4 weeks of wins on all the tracks. We're heading to I-55 next week. We'll see how that goes in terms of turnout, getting races, and running along. We'll just have to wait and see. And then we've got 598 points there. Big points hauls between Eldora and Charlotte help a good bit there. Obviously, decent points at Lanier as well. I want to say there's maybe only slightly more points that could have been scored at Lanier, and I believe only like 10 or so that could be scored at Lima Land so far this week. We'll do it on that front. So in terms of the track pickups this season, if we go on over to this guy, it's been just 3. We had the street stock at Irwindale to kick the season off, and then we had Qualcomm Circuit, Naval Base Coronado in the Clio in PCC, and then Michigan in the IndyCar. And that does it for that. We're down to 12. Mostly ovals. Misano's the only road course. We've got Chicagoland, Darlington, Dover, Hickory, Myrtle Beach, Nashville Superspeedway, Phoenix, Pocono, Rockingham, Talladega, the Bullring, and Misano. And then if we look at what's coming up the rest of this season, where we're going, next week we'll have Indy Next, IndyCar at Nashville. That'll be the opportunity for me to pick up Nashville this season without having to run a fendered car. And then 87's at Darlington. I don't really have any ambitions to do next week. It's a lighter week for me since Legends Road Cup is at Road Atlanta. I'll be probably skipping out on that and running just Indy Next at Oschersleben and hopefully Dirt Legends at I-55. We'll just have to see how that plays out. SK Modifieds will be at Hickory in week 6, including IndyCar and Gen 4 at Pocono. So it'll be the first crack at Pocono for the season. Week 7, fixed sprint and open IndyCar will be at Pocono. We'll see how that plays out. GT3 Europe is at Misano. That's the first series to hit Misano this season. And then week 8, which would be when I plan on, or I guess the end of week 8 would be when I plan to recap things next, would be Indy Next at Rockingham, Spec Racer Ford at Misano, late models at Hickory, and 87s at Talladega. I don't really anticipate picking up Talladega until the very end of this, but such is life. And then the rest of the season, you got Indy next to Darlington in week 9, SK Modifieds at Myrtle Beach in week 10, alongside Silver Crown at Rockingham. I don't really anticipate running the Silver Crown, but it's on here. Super Lates at the Bull Ring in week 11, alongside Gen 4 and Trucks at Darlington. Silver Crown at Phoenix. It's the only series run in New Phoenix this season. So if I want to try it, that's going to be the only place to do it. Then you've got week 12. That's the big one. Legends at Misano. IndyCar at Chicagoland. Junior Oval Challenge at Dover. SK Modifieds at the Bull Ring. Legends at Hickory. Super Late Model at Myrtle Beach. Nashville in the ARCA car. And Cup and Xfinity at Darlington. And that'll do it for this kind of initial recap of 2026 Season 3. I'm hoping to pick up another 7 tracks this season, get it down to like 5 or so before the end of this one, even if it turns into I have nothing but short ovals, Talladega, and Phoenix left or something. That wouldn't be a bad place to be. We'll just have to wait and see kind of thing how things play out. I'm gonna be trying to be as committed as I can to trying to make that happen, but we'll just have to see how things go. Obviously, a lot of oval racing needs to be done in order to accomplish that, and we'll see how that goes. So have a good one, everybody. We'll catch you in a couple weeks. Moving into the second third of the season here. Have a good one.